What is up, guys? Welcome to a new Patreon pick video, and this one was for the month of June. So Patreon pick is one of the perks that I give to all of my Patreon members, which you can check out the link down below. It's essentially my crowdfunding website. If you're a huge fan of what I do and you want to support me financially and get some cool perks along the way, that is the way to do it. So please check that out, and I appreciate you even considering that. But one of the perks that I give is that I let all of my patrons give suggestions on a video idea, and then I take a couple of my favorites and I let them vote. And the winner of that vote gets a video produced every single month. And the theme of today's Patreon pick is my top 10 most disturbing movie moments. And this one was an intriguing one for me because I've done like saddest movie moments. I think I've done most shocking and scariest movie moments, but most disturbing holds a little bit of a different meaning for me. I don't necessarily equate it to the movie moment that shocked me or scared me the most. Disturbing to me is one that like gave me some kind of a guttural reaction that almost made me sick. Something that physically affected me watching it unfold on screen. And so this one was an interesting one to sit and kind of compile and make like a little a draft list and cut away which ones were actually more effective than others. So nonetheless, very subjective list. I'm sure there's going to be a number of things on here that I leave out that you're going to be shocked were not on this list. I either have not seen that movie or it did not affect me the way that it affected you. But let me know your most disturbing movie moments down in the comment section below. And with that being said, let's kick this bitch off with number 10. And number 10 for me is going to go to the original Wes Craven film, The Last House on the Left. Now, this belongs to a subgenre of horror that I'm really not a fan of. Most of the films I don't even bother watching, like SA revenge films, there's some good ones, but it's just nothing that I really get much, certainly no enjoyment, but I just don't get a whole lot of value out of watching them. Some people just really dig the revenge side of things, and it makes up for all the disturbing nature of the opening half, but I don't know. They're just not movies for me. But this one is one of those rare cases where I actually saw the remake first, but think the original is far more effective. And that doesn't often work out that way for me, unless the remake just sucks, which I would not say The Last House on the Left remake sucks at all. I think it's actually a pretty good movie if you're into those. But The Last House on the Left original, there's something so gritty and raw and vintage about the way that Wes Craven made this film. And of course, it is just a very old film in and of itself, where you have the scene where the two girls are essentially carted off into the woods by all of our villainous characters. And they're, I'm going to have to be very careful about how specific I get. Otherwise, YouTube will just demolish this video. But they make them do things in front of them that is very disturbing. And I think what was effective about this older film over the original is that they show so much less. It's all just kind of suggestion, you know, the way that the camera kind of shakes around a little bit and, you know, focuses on certain things. You don't really get a complete picture visually of what is happening. It makes it all the more effective. So it's essentially just like this series of events where they're forced to do very sick things, and then eventually one of them tries to escape. It doesn't work out, and you get a very graphic scene where, you know, things on the inside are pulled to the outside. And then the girl who is left, you know, things continue to happen to her. And yeah, it's a little different than the remake for many different reasons, with just the style of it, but also the girls don't survive in the original, whereas in the remake, you have, I think it was Sarah Paxton's character survives, and her ending up on her parents' doorstep is what tips them off, whereas it's a necklace in The Last House on the Left, or a bracelet. So there's something about this film, you know, it's always been hailed as one of the most disturbing films of all time for good reason. And for me, even though I got to it very late in life, I only watched this for the first time and reviewed it like 4 or 5 years ago, maybe not even that long ago. And it's still very effective. It's not a movie that I would ever watch again. Coming in at number 9 is, I believe, the only film of this 10 that is not a horror film. And that is Martin Scorsese's Casino. And it is Joe Pesci's character and his brother's death scene. Now, Casino, while it is a great film, it's never been one of my personal favorites, quote-unquote, mob films or crime films. But the one sequence in this movie that always stood out to me for how shocked I was at how graphic and disturbing it was is when Joe Pesci's character and his brother are drawn out to the middle of this field, like it's like this sandy field, and people that he thinks are his friends suddenly show that they are not. And what is so disturbing about this is the way that it just lingers for so long on this prolonged kill of his brother, where you literally have Joe Pesci screaming, yelling at his friend. I mean, he knows he's going to die, and he's still yelling at his friend to leave his brother alone. He's still breathing, stop hitting him. Just that in and of itself probably would have been enough to land on this list. But they keep hitting the guy, and Joe Pesci's just forced to watch until the bat eventually turns on him. And the way that they use makeup effects to like swell out Joe Pesci's face and have, corn syrup coming out certain directions, and then literally show the two bodies get thrown into this little grave. And I don't know if they used animatronic, or I assume they did, where it shows Joe Pesci's character still struggling to breathe while they're shoveling dirt and sand on top of them, literally burying them alive. Like they're sitting there the last moments of their life in agonizing pain, choking on dirt. It is fucked up. So just my description of number 9. It's not even a horror film. Probably that is enough to get this demonetized. But yeah, for something that I just rewatched not too long ago, for 31 on 31, Law and Disorder, which if you missed that, I'll put a link up here for you to check that out. I was reminded very quickly of all the movies on that list that have a lot of carnage and a lot of violence in it, how disturbing that scene was. I think it's the most disturbing thing that Martin Scorsese has ever put to film, and that's a tall list. Coming at number 8 for me is going to be a scene from Dr. Sleep, Mike Flanagan's film, and just by me naming the title, you already know which sequence it is. It is the baseball kid sequence, where you have Jacob Tremblay, who is kidnapped and drawn away into this field in the middle of the night by all of the villains of the film. And like Mike Flanagan is one of those directors where he always kind of has this classy approach to horror, where he'll have some disturbing images here and there, but he never like goes full bore gore fest, or never really goes for shock value or anything like that. He keeps it a little bit closer to the chest, I think. This is the most disturbing thing that he has ever put to film, in my opinion, where you literally have a kid where they don't necessarily show exactly what is happening, but he's essentially being disemboweled to create some kind of a fear response that they can then suck out of him, like his soul.
Are you gonna hurt me? Yeah. No!
If you haven't seen the film, it's going to sound like a bizarre concept, but that's what the villains essentially do, is they kind of like breathe the soul out of people for power, for life. And they get more of it if the person is in a state of fear and panic. And so they're cutting into this kid as he's screaming, he's crying, he's scared to death about what the hell is happening. And it was a scene that when I first saw it, I was shocked that this was a Mike Flanagan film, because like I said, that's not usually what I expect from him. But it was one of the most memorable sequences of that film. It's the moment where you really start to hate these villains. Sometimes you have villains that are charismatic and their screen presence is cool. And so you're supposed to root against them, but you kind of don't. You're like, Rose the Hat, I'd fucking hang out with her. And then you get to that scene and you're like, oh, this bitch has got to go now. Coming in at number 7 for me is going to be Terrifier 2, and of course the bedroom scene. Now there's always a lot of debate amongst Terrifier fans and even Terrifier haters on which one is the most disturbing scene. Is it the hacksaw scene? Is it the chainsaw scene from the third one? Is it the bedroom scene? Is it something else? And I think the bedroom scene is my pick because it's the one that I had the most guttural reaction to, where I think by the time I got to 3, I was definitely more numb to it. And the first film, I guess I was expecting it so much that it didn't hit me the way that it hit some other people. While still, that would be the runner-up for me. But the bedroom scene, it's the only scene on this list that I would say is disturbing and merits being in my top 10, but it didn't necessarily make me feel like sick. I was like uncomfortably laughing a little bit at how over the top this scene was. Partially because of just the scene itself, partially because I was sitting next to my buddy Sean Chandler, who was looking at this like somebody was blowing sand in his eye, like, oh God, it burns. But yeah, there was something about witnessing this scene in a packed theater at a midnight showing at Fantastic Fest 2022, but just a bunch of rowdy horror fans ready to just have gore everywhere. and you get to this scene and it just feels like the kill that will not stop. Like as soon as you feel like he's done and this poor girl has been through enough, something else happens, and then something else happens. Like it's not this long, but it's a kill that feels like it goes on for like 15 minutes. So yeah, that's the one to me that I would say belongs on this list, where it's just, I don't know. I don't know if Damien's ever going to find a way to top that one for me personally. Coming in at number 6, we're going to go back to Wes Craven, but I'm actually going to give this point to the remake of The Hills Have Eyes, which was an Alexander Aja film. And it's the RV assault sequence. Now, I have seen both versions of Hills Have Eyes, and the same way that I saw Last House on the Left, where I watched the remake first and then years later went back and watched the original Wes Craven film. And I think both versions could easily be on this list, but there's something about how much more graphic that the remake version is that, to me, I think that's one of those cases where the newer version actually somehow trumps how disturbing the older, more a little more reserved version was in the 70s. And so you have a sequence where so many things happen. Like it's a very rare thing in a horror film that is definitely kind of having a body count nature to it, to dispatch of so much of your cast in just one sequence. You know, usually we play by slasher rules where it's like one by one, every 15 minutes or so, somebody gets picked off. And what's different about Hills Have Eyes is that you have all this buildup, and then eventually you have the mutants, the people who have been affected by the inbreeding and as well as the nuclear fallout suddenly are just on screen. And you have so many things that happen in succession where they're attacking the people, the women inside of the RV. As soon as somebody starts to realize something's happening, they set off this fire, and the husband, Ted Levine, is set on fire, is burning alive, attached to this tree where everybody goes as a distraction. Meanwhile, the youngest girl in the family starts to be assaulted, while the next oldest, who had recently had a baby, is also being assaulted in a very different way. Then the mom comes in and gets killed trying to save her daughters, as well as one of the daughters. Like it's a scene that just goes on and on and on, and it's just like, holy shit, are we gonna kill this whole family in this one scene? It feels that way. And it's something that really stuck with me. You know, Hills Have Eyes, the remake, I think is one of the better remakes of horror classic films, but it's not a movie that I ever really want to watch. You know, I watched it back in the day. I might have rewatched it once since then, and then I watched it a couple years ago when I was reviewing Wes Craven films, and I wanted to tackle the remakes to his films as well. And it might be another 5, 7, 10 years before I ever watch this movie again, if ever. And it's because it's so effective at what it does. It's not a movie that I get like enjoyment rewatching. It's just, it's fucked up. Coming in at number 5 is going to be the wishbone scene, which is what I'll call it, from Bone Tomahawk. Now, this is kind of one of the reasons why I did not go with the Terrifier 1 sequence with the bisection kill with the girl hung upside down, because, you know, I don't remember exactly which movie I saw first, but the Terrifier 1 and Bone Tomahawk came out around the same time. And to me, Bone Tomahawk, they're very similar kills. This one was always way more effective for me for some reason. I don't know why. Most people would disagree, I think. But essentially you have these people that are going off trying to find this little, you know, cannibal area. It's a Western film. And so you have Kurt Russell and a number of other people. And eventually when they get there, the people who are surviving get captured. They get thrown into a cell. One of them gets pulled out, stripped down, and then using like this literal bone tomahawk gets split in half slowly. And I don't know if it's the gritty nature of the film. I don't know if it's the dusty, dirty nature of the scene and the set that they're using. I don't know if it's the effects themselves, but something about this scene is so disturbing that I've never had the desire to go back and watch Bone Tomahawk again. And I love S. Craig Zahler's films. Like, I love Brawl in Cell Block 99. I had a great time with Dragged Across Concrete. I would love to go back and watch Bone Tomahawk and do reviews of all 3 of them and kind of maybe rank them when he has another film. But for as wild as this movie was, that one scene has always made me go, like, whenever I'm maybe thinking about putting it on, I'm like, I don't think it's been enough time. I don't think I'm ready again. So yeah, this is one that definitely watching it, you know, it takes a lot to make me want to look away. this film made me want to look away, where I almost wanted to like watch it with one eye open, or like, I don't know what's going on over here. Somebody's calling me. You want to have some kind of a distraction. Somebody save me, for Christ's sake. But yeah, Bone Tomahawk, the wishbone scene comes in at number 5 for me. Seriously disturbing. Coming in at number 4 is a scene that definitely is not a gory scene. It's not even a scary scene, but the nature of what is happening always gives me such a huge emotional reaction, especially since I have become a father. And it's from Pet Sematary, and it's not Zelda. It's not Gage's death. It's not the Achilles tendon scene with Judd. It is the scene where Lewis decides that he is going to bury Gage's corpse in the pet cemetery, in the Micmac burial ground. And he digs up his grave, and there's a shot where from inside the grave, he opens it up, and then it immediately just cuts to this quiet scene in the cold of night with the wind blowing, where he's just sitting there rocking his son's dead corpse. And he's just like still. For some reason, like that's why Pet Sematary to me, it's not a popular answer. I always say it's the scariest movie of all time for me personally, because this movie scared the shit out of me as a kid for things like Zelda. And as I get older and as I have more life experience and as I have kids of my own, the film has only gotten more scary and more disturbing, and different pieces of the film affect me in ways that never used to affect me. This is one of them. All the times that I saw it, that was never a standout scene. It was like, okay, yeah, that's fucked up. But watching it now, when I get to that scene, like I get a knot in my stomach. Just the thought of losing your child is horrific enough. That's literally my greatest fear, by a landslide. But the thought of being faced with the corpse of your child and being so overridden with guilt that all you want to do is hold them again, even if they're cold and lifeless. Like I'm almost tearing up just saying it. Like that almost maybe should be number 1, honestly. But I think there's ones that I had more of a physical reaction to that I thought were more honest answers. But yeah, that is easily one of the most disturbing movie moments of all time for me. Where every time I rewatch that film, and I rewatch it probably once a year, it's one of my all-time favorites. That specific shot where there's not really anything of huge substance happening. That is something that gives me a massive guttural reaction that no other film gives me. Coming in at number 3 is going to be Martyrs, and it's the part where the whole fucking thing. This is a movie I have only seen once. I will only ever watch it once. If I'm not mistaken, it was actually a Patreon pick way back in the day. So thanks, guys. But yeah, this is I believe a French film. And of course, I am talking about the original, by the way. I've heard nothing but horrible things about the remake, never bothered with it. But this is a movie where literally the entire thing is horrifically disturbing. Like every single piece of this movie is some of the most ridiculously off the wall shit that I've ever seen, that I would never want to re-experience it. Whether you're talking about the opening family slaughter before you even understand the context of it, whether you're talking about the girl that comes out of what was the basement or the secret room and what she's wearing, whether you're talking about what eventually happens to the main character's friend at the end of the second act. I mean, you could, just like with something like Pet Sematary, there's 4 or 5 different scenes that most people would throw out. For me, though, it's basically the entire third act, like the last 15, 20 minutes of the film. Like that was the part of the movie where I almost wondered if I was not going to be able to continue to watch it and just stop. Because if you've never seen Martyrs, it's not really much of an exaggeration to say that the entire third act of a film is essentially just a collection of scenes of watching a woman be tortured and beaten over and over and over and over and over again. To the length where, like, by the 3rd or 4th time they went back and kept doing it, I was just like, Jesus Christ, like, how long is this going to go on? How much longer is this movie going to make me watch this shit? What's happening next? And what eventually happens next is that, oh, we're not gonna beat and torture this person anymore. We're going to flay them alive. We're going to skin them alive like Hellraiser. So, yeah, I mean, that's an image. That is a third act that I will never forget. And, you know, it's a movie that I don't often talk with people about. People don't tend to bring it up much unless they're trying to have like an endurance test for their friend. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting movie with some of the implications it's trying to say about nirvana and religion and like, you know, what this society is trying to get somebody to experience to prove the afterlife and everything. Like it's an interesting movie. Like I'm sure some of these video nasty type movies there's some substance there, but it is such a hard movie to get through that I've just never really wanted to sit and unpack it for very long. So yeah, the whole third act or the whole fucking thing of Martyrs, number 3. Coming in at number 2 is going to be an oddball on this list because technically this is a film that I actually have never seen. I think I've told this story on a Q&A before, but there was a night where I was just kind of flipping through YouTube, random YouTube videos, and I came across a video very similar to the one that I'm making now, where it was some kind of a top 10 or a collection video of like most shocking movie scenes or something like that. And I clicked on it, and it was a lot of the same usual suspects, you know, the hobbling scene from Misery, the end of The Mist, you know, a lot of examples of things that people are probably shocked have not showed up on this list yet or at all. But then we got to one, and I did not recognize what this movie was. And it basically just shows this out-of-context scene, because I had never seen the film before, where I knew enough about Feast, at least the first one with the cover of the film, to know it's about like these huge sharp-toothed beasts or these monsters that I assume eat and tear people apart. So it said Feast 2 Sloppy Seconds was the name of the movie. And it just shows this out-of-context sequence where this guy is trying to save a baby, an infant that is screaming while these beasts are running around. He grabs the baby and he's running down the street. And then suddenly these beasts start to gain on him, and he looks at the baby and he throws it in the air. And the camera, like, I assume the movie's very campy because it was kind of goofy in nature, but I was not ready for what I was about to see. Throws the baby in the air, and the camera follows the baby like, hey, if I remember correctly. It's kind of hokey. And then the baby just goes splat and hits the concrete, and you know, not in a soft way. That in and of itself would have been enough for me to be sick for the rest of the night, because that's my one kind of emotional trigger, is anything happening to an infant or very young children, depending on the nature of it. Like I can watch something like Terrifier 3 that's so over the top and campy in nature that it doesn't really affect me, but something like this or The Coffee Table, you'll fuck me up the entire night. So yeah, baby goes in the air, baby hits the concrete, screaming and crying. And that's enough where it just lingers on that. And I was like, oh, fuck. Oh, no. Why did I watch that? And then something comes and grabs it and tears it apart. So, yeah, that shows you how badly that out-of-context scene affected me, having never seen the film, for me to put it at number 2. But I'm not exaggerating when I tell you that I was nauseous for hours after seeing that clip. I turned the top 10 off. I didn't even want to see the rest of them. I have never clicked on a video like that ever again, which is ironic that I'm actually making one of those now. And now I've introduced that scene to somebody else. But yeah, I had to be honest. When I was sitting down to make this list, that one immediately popped into my head. And I was like, you know, do I put it on there given that I've never seen the film? Yes, because I'm ranking moments, not the movies. And that was easily one of almost the most disturbing movie moment that I've ever seen. But coming in at number 1 is a film that gave me the most physical and emotional reaction I have ever had to watching a horror film in the theater. And I've told this story a few times because I have reviewed this film and I've ranked the franchise a couple different ways. And that is the original Hostel. And much like Martyrs, you can kind of just categorize the entire movie here. There's not necessarily one specific moment. It was the whole experience. But if I was to point to one, it would be when I believe the character's name was Josh is killed, where, you know, they pull the hood off, and it is the German guy that he kind of had a bad interaction with earlier on in the film, who is his killer, essentially, the guy with the apron. And there's so much about this specific scene that is disturbing, because so much is given about what the true nature of this movie is and what exactly is going on, where clearly he's about to be cut open in a number of different ways, but you still don't exactly know why or what the hell is happening at this hostel, what plot of this movie is. And this is where all the answers are revealed, where You initially think maybe this is just a revenge thing where he felt slighted by this guy, and so now he's going to tie him up and have his way with him. Tells this story about how he always wanted to be a surgeon, but he couldn't because he had hand tremors. And, earlier he ties back to what he was saying about his relationship with food, and he eats with his hands, which is a really odd, disturbing line that's just about eating. And then eventually you get, like most characters do in these types of situations, where they succumb to just begging for their life. And he decides, yeah, I'll let you go. And he unshackles him after he cuts his Achilles tendons. And you don't even see the cut. You just see the reaction of the actor, which he did an incredible job in that moment. But when he goes to stand up, that's where you see the split. And that's one of those things where you get that phantom pain. Even there's a drill segment where certain things are happening to him even before that. And it all gets capped off by right when he gets to the door, and seemingly freedom, salvation, which we know he's never going to get, is right there. It's within arm's distance. And the guy grabs him and pulls him back in, and he's like, I'll give you money. And he goes, hey, nobody's paying me. I'm paying them. And we get more context later, but that's the first moment where you realize, oh, so people are paying money to do this to other people. That's a very fucked up concept. I actually was able to meet Eli Roth very briefly at the last MegaCon that I was at, and I made sure to tell him, sir, you have absolutely traumatized me twice. One time was because he was the reason I watched the original Sleepaway Camp, and if you know the end of that movie, boing. That was something that's always going to stick in my brain. And then the other one was Hostel. And I'm not exaggerating when I tell you, like, me and my dad went to go see this film, didn't know anything about it other than just new horror film and, Quentin Tarantino's name's on it somewhere. We walked out so disturbed. It really felt like we just went into like a black room somewhere and actually watched like a snuff film or watched somebody get killed in front of us. Like, it felt that real, where like we actually couldn't even listen to music on the ride home. I had just bought this Seven Dust Greatest Hits because I was starting to get into that band. This was 2004, something like that. We got into the truck and turned it on, and the CD started again that we were listening to before we got to the theater, and it just goes right into Seven Dust. Too close to hate, too close to, and just cut it off immediately. We were like, we don't have any room for angry vibes right now. So we drove home in silence, just listened to the fucking wind, because we were just like shell-shocked at what Hostel was. And I've never had that reaction to a film since. I've since become so desensitized by movies like Hostel and Saw and Terrifier, where it's very difficult to have any movie give me a reaction even close to that level now. But that is the one. That is the one movie where I literally felt like I was almost having an out-of-body experience after seeing it, because it just disturbed me on that level. And no film has done that since. So easily Hostel, the whole movie really, but that Achilles tendon scene specifically is my number one most disturbing movie moment of all time. Well, that's it for this one, guys. Please consider becoming a patron of mine if you want to participate in the next Patreon pick. Thank you to all of my current patrons and all of your continuing support. You guys are the best. Like, share, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss everything in the future. And as always, remember, opinions are like assholes, but that doesn't mean you have to be.